My daughter's husband and his father threw her off their yacht into the Atlantic Ocean at midnight. She was 4 months pregnant. As I watched her disappear into that black water, they actually laughed and said she was being dramatic. Then they turned around and headed back to shore, leaving her there to die. When the Coast Guard pulled her out 3 hours later, barely breathing, I made one phone call to my older brother. I said 4 words: time to end them. I'm Carl Peterson, 58 years old. I fix things for a living, spent 30 years working on Navy aircraft before I moved to civilian jets. I'm not complicated. I work hard, pay my bills, and protect my family. That's about it. Been raising my daughter Amanda by myself since my wife died when Amanda was 10. I taught her to work hard, be honest, trust the right people. Maybe I should have been more careful about that last part. The whole mess started at what they called their autumn celebration. We were on the Hampton family's yacht, the Isabella, anchored off Martha's Vineyard. Big fancy boat with about 40 guests standing around with champagne. I felt like a fish out of water from the minute I stepped on board. These people lived in a different world than me. Amanda had married Tyler Hampton 2 years back. He's one of those investment banker types who wears $1,000 suits and talks about money all day. His old man is Senator George Hampton, the guy you see on TV with the big smile and the firm handshake. Rich and powerful, the whole package. I never liked Tyler from day one. Call it a mechanic's gut feeling. When you work on planes for 30 years, you learn to spot problems before they become disasters. Tyler felt like a problem waiting to happen, but Amanda loved him, or thought she did, and what father wants to tell his daughter she's making a mistake with her life? That night on the yacht, I was already uncomfortable. I don't belong with these people. They've got their fancy clothes and their fancy talk, and there I am in my one good suit feeling like I'm wearing a costume. Amanda kept trying to include me in conversations, but I could see how these people looked at me, like I was some kind of curiosity. Amanda looked beautiful that night, wearing a navy dress that hid her pregnancy. She'd told Tyler about the baby that morning. When she told me how he reacted, it bothered me. Not happy, not angry, just cold. Like she'd told him something inconvenient. I was watching Tyler and his father most of the night. They kept having these little private conversations, looking over at Amanda, then looking away. Made my skin crawl. In my line of work, you learn to pay attention when things don't feel right. Around 10 o'clock, most people went down below for dinner. Amanda excused herself to use the bathroom. I was talking to this elderly couple about their summer place when I heard Tyler call out, "Amanda, come here for a minute." I looked over. Tyler and Senator Hampton were standing near the back railing. Amanda walked over to them, smiling like she always did. She was always trying to make them like her, always working to fit in. "What's wrong?" I heard her ask. Tyler said something I couldn't hear. Whatever it was made Amanda's smile disappear real quick. She shook her head and tried to walk away. That's when Tyler grabbed her arm. His father moved around behind her, blocking her path. I started walking over there. Something was definitely wrong. You don't corner a pregnant woman like that. "Let go of me," Amanda said, her voice getting louder. "What are you doing?" "Just teaching you not to trap a man with fake pregnancy news," Tyler said, loud enough for me to hear now. "You think I'm stupid? I know exactly what you're trying to pull here. It's not fake. I'm actually pregnant," Amanda said. I could hear the panic starting in her voice. "Tyler, you're scaring me." She tried to pull away, but he held on tight. Senator Hampton stepped closer, trapping her against the railing. They had her cornered. I was moving faster now, calling out, "Hey, get away from her!" But I was too far away. A 58-year-old guy in dress shoes trying to cross a yacht deck isn't exactly speed. Tyler looked at his father. I saw them exchange some kind of look. Then, without any warning, they both pushed. Amanda went over backwards, screaming. The sound she made when she hit the water wasn't right. Too sharp, like she'd hit something hard before the water got her. I got there seconds later and grabbed Tyler by his jacket. "What did you do? What the hell did you do?" He shoved me back hard enough that I stumbled. I caught myself on the railing and looked down. Nothing but black water and the sound of waves hitting the boat. "She'll swim to shore," Senator Hampton said, calm as you please, adjusting his cufflinks like nothing happened. "It's only half a mile. Maybe this'll teach her a lesson about lying to get our money." "She's pregnant," I yelled at them. "She can't swim in water that cold." Tyler actually laughed. "Pregnant? Right. Next thing you know, she'll say the baby's mine and want child support. I've seen women like her before. I lost it. I tried to get the life ring off the wall, but Senator Hampton got in my way. Mr. Peterson, you need to calm down. This is family business. Get out of my way. I shoved past him, grabbed that life ring, and threw it as far as I could toward where Amanda went in. It hit the water somewhere out there in the dark. I looked over the side, trying to see anything. The boat's lights only showed about 20 feet of water. Past that, just darkness. "Amanda!" I shouted. "Amanda, can you hear me?" Nothing. Just waves and that damn jazz music still playing from the speakers like nothing happened. I pulled out my phone and called 911. Told them we had a person overboard, gave them our location, everything I could think of. Tyler walked right past me like I wasn't even there. "Dramatic as usual," he told his father. "She's probably already on shore, somewhere, planning her next move." I wanted to throw him overboard right then and there. I wanted to break his jaw, but I couldn't take my eyes off that water. Had to keep looking for any sign of my daughter. One of the other guests came up from below, Mrs. Rachel Phillips, this elderly lady I'd been talking to earlier. She looked horrified. "Why didn't you jump in after her?" she asked. "Can't swim well enough," I said. My voice was shaking. "Water's too cold, too rough. If I go in, we'll both die." Coast Guard told me to stay put, keep watching, keep calling her name. But saying that didn't make the guilt any easier. My daughter was drowning out there, and I was standing on this deck doing nothing. 20 minutes went by, then 40. The Coast Guard showed up with their searchlights sweeping across that black water. I stood at the railing the whole time, calling Amanda's name until my voice gave out. Tyler and his father had disappeared below deck, acting like nothing happened. I could hear Tyler down there telling the other guests that Amanda decided to go for a swim and probably made it to shore already. At the 2-hour mark, I heard one of the Coast Guard guys on his radio. "We've got something." I gripped that railing so hard my knuckles went white. "Alive," came the voice back. Long pause. Way too long. Barely. "Hypothermia. Head trauma. She's unconscious. We need a helicopter now." They brought her up in one of those rescue baskets. I barely recognized my own daughter. Her face was blue-gray, lips purple. Blood in her hair from a gash on her forehead. She wasn't moving at all. "Is she breathing?" I asked the medic. "Barely. We gotta move fast." They loaded her onto the Coast Guard boat and I started to follow. "Sir, you need to stay here," one of the officers said. "We need statements. This is a crime scene now. That's my daughter." "We know, sir. The helicopter's taking her to Mass General. You can meet her there. But right now we need to know exactly what happened." I watched Amanda being carried away. Everything in me wanted to go with her. But the officer was right. If I left now, Tyler and his father would spin this however they wanted. They'd make it disappear. "All right," I said. "I'll tell you everything." I gave my statement to the Coast Guard, told them exactly what I saw. Tyler and Senator Hampton deliberately pushing Amanda overboard. Told them about the pregnancy, about Tyler's reaction, about how they laughed afterward. The young officer taking my statement looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Peterson, you understand we'll need to investigate this thoroughly. Senator Hampton is... well, he's a senator. These accusations are pretty serious. More serious than trying to kill my daughter? I'm just saying this is going to be complicated." He wasn't wrong. By the time I got to the hospital 3 hours later, lawyers were already there. Not my lawyers, theirs. 2 guys in expensive suits talking quietly with some hospital administrator. A doctor came over to me. Young woman. Looked exhausted. "Mr. Peterson, I'm Dr. Lisa Rodriguez. Your daughter is stable but critical. She has severe hypothermia, a concussion, and she took in a lot of seawater. We're doing everything we can." She paused. "The baby, we don't know yet. Too early to tell if the pregnancy is still viable. Next 48 hours are critical." I sat down in one of those plastic chairs, felt like I was watching this happen to somebody else. One of the lawyers walked over. "Mr. Peterson, I'm Keith Morrison, representing the Hampton family. We're deeply concerned about Mrs. Hampton's accident. It wasn't an accident. And we want to assure you that Senator Hampton and his son are cooperating fully with authorities. However, we would caution against making inflammatory statements that could be considered defamation. Get lost." "Mr. Peterson, I understand you're upset, but..." I stood up. "I'm not a violent guy, never have been, but right then, if that lawyer said one more word, I might have changed that." He must have seen something in my face because he backed off quick and went back to his partner. I sat back down and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from pure rage. cold, quiet rage that had been building since I watched my daughter disappear into that water. I found the name I was looking for. Victor Peterson, my older brother. We hadn't talked in almost 2 years, had some stupid family fight about something so ridiculous I can't even remember what it was. Victor spent 30 years with the FBI, mostly in financial crimes. Guy who could look at a bunch of numbers and see the crimes hidden in them. Put away politicians, mob guys, corporate criminals. He retired 5 years ago to some small town in Vermont, but I knew he still had connections. I hit dial. He answered on the third ring. Carl. His voice was careful. We didn't part on good terms. Victor. I hadn't called him Vic since we were kids. I need help. Silence then. What happened? I told him. Everything. Kept my voice steady, like I was describing a repair job instead of my daughter almost dying. When I finished, there was a long pause. These people, Victor said finally, you're talking about Senator George Hampton. Yeah. Carl, he's one of the most powerful men in Massachusetts, probably running for governor next year. He's got connections everywhere, every agency, every courthouse. I know who he is, Vic. I know what I'm asking. Another pause. I could hear him thinking, weighing the risks. Where are you now? He asked. Mass General ICU waiting room. Stay there. Don't talk to any more lawyers. Don't talk to police unless I'm there. Don't talk to anyone. I'm leaving Vermont now. Be there in 3 hours. Vic, I'm not doing this for you, Carl. I'm doing it for Amanda. That girl sent me a birthday card last year, even when we weren't speaking. She didn't have to do that. My throat got tight. Thanks. Don't thank me yet. If what you're telling me is true, this is going to get messy. The Hamptons will use everything they've got to bury this. You ready for that? I looked through the glass at Amanda's room, all those machines keeping her alive, monitors tracking her heartbeat. Yeah, I said, I'm ready. I stayed at the hospital all night. Amanda didn't wake up. Around 3 a.m., a nurse came out and told me the pregnancy was over. The trauma, the cold water, the stress, too much for the baby to survive. My daughter had lost her child. I sat in that chair and something broke inside me. Not cracked, broke clean through. Whatever mercy I might have felt, whatever thought of letting this slide, died right there. Victor showed up just before sunrise. He looked older than I remembered. More gray hair, deeper lines around his eyes. But those eyes were still sharp, still taking everything in. He sat down next to me without saying anything. We sat there quiet for a few minutes. Tell me again, he said finally. Every detail. Don't leave anything out. So I did. This time I included this. Stuff I hadn't told the Coast Guard. How Tyler and his father had been whispering together earlier that evening. How they'd been watching Amanda all night with looks I couldn't read. How when Amanda told Tyler about the pregnancy that morning, he immediately called his father. Victor listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Okay, he said. Here's what we're dealing with. Senator Hampton has been in politics for 30 years. He's wealthy, connected, and very careful. If he did this, if he deliberately tried to hurt Amanda, he's done it before. What do you mean? Guys like him don't just wake up one day and decide to commit violence. There's always a pattern, a history. We need to find it. How? I still know people in the Bureau, and I know some journalists who owe me favors, people who aren't scared of going after powerful men. He looked at me straight. But Carl, you need to understand something. If we do this, we're declaring war. The Hamptons will come after us with everything they've got. Our money, our reputations, maybe even our safety. You sure about this? I thought about Amanda in that hospital bed. I thought about my grandchild who'd never be born. I thought about Tyler laughing while my daughter drowned. I'm sure. Victor nodded slowly. Then here's what we do. First, we don't react. We don't make accusations. We act like we believe their story that it was an accident. We play nice. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Because while they think we're backing down, I'm going to dig. I'm going to find out everything about George Hampton's past. Every business deal, every relationship, every secret he's got buried. And when I'm done, we're going to destroy him. The next 3 days were hell. Amanda stayed unconscious while her body tried to recover. I sat by her bed, held her hand, didn't talk to anyone except doctors and nurses. Tyler came by once, walked in with flowers. His lawyer right behind him started talking about how tragic this accident had been. I didn't say a word, just stared at him until he left. Senator Hampton sent gifts, expensive fruit baskets, flowers, a card saying how sorry he was about this unfortunate incident. I threw them all in the trash. Meanwhile, Victor was working. He called me every evening with updates, always careful about what he said on the phone. I found something, he said on day 4. Senator Hampton's first wife. She died 20 years ago, fell down the stairs at their summer house in Nantucket, ruled an accident. And I tracked down the medical examiner who did the autopsy. He's retired now, living in Florida, flying down tomorrow to talk to him. What do you think you'll find? Don't know yet, but someone who worked that case told me there were things about that death that never felt right, bruises that didn't match the fall, timing that didn't add up. But Senator Hampton had friends in the department. Case got closed fast. My hand tightened on the phone. He's done this before. Maybe. I'm going to find out. Let me back up and tell you something about my brother Victor. Guy's got a mind like a steel trap. When he worked financial crimes for the FBI, he could look at a company's books and spot fraud that accountants missed. He had this way of connecting dots that other people couldn't even see. If there was dirt on Senator Hampton, Victor would find it. On day 6, Amanda woke up. I was sitting next to her bed, half asleep in my chair, when I heard her voice, barely a whisper. Dad? I grabbed her hand. I'm here, sweetheart. Right here. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked confused, disoriented. What? Where am I? You're in the hospital. You're going to be okay. She blinked, and I watched the memory come flooding back. The fear, the horror. Tyler, she whispered. They pushed me. Dad, they pushed me off the yacht. I know. I saw it. I'm taking care of it. The baby? She started crying, her hand going to her stomach. Is the baby? I couldn't find the words. She saw it. In my face. No, she whispered. No, no, no. The monitors started beeping. Nurses came running. They made me leave while they sedated her, calmed her down. Through the window, I watched my daughter fall apart, and I made myself a promise. The Hamptons were going to pay for every tear. Victor called that evening. Talked to the medical examiner. He's willing to go on record. Says George Hampton's first wife had defensive wounds on her arms, bruises that looked like someone grabbed her and shook her. The head trauma didn't match a simple fall down stairs. Looked more like she got hit and then pushed. Christ. There's more. Found another woman, Patricia Hammond. She was Hampton's campaign manager 15 years ago. Filed a police report saying he assaulted her. Report disappeared. She got paid $200,000 and signed one of those non-disclosure agreements. Can she testify? If we can break the NDA. And here's the kicker, Carl. Tyler's got a trust fund worth $40 million. It vests when he turns 36 next year, but there's a clause. If he's married, his wife gets half in a divorce. The pieces clicked together in my head. Amanda told him about the pregnancy that morning, and suddenly he's looking at losing $20 million. More if she gets custody of the kid and divorces him. So they decided to solve the problem. That's what I think. But proving it's different. They'll say it was an accident, a tragic misunderstanding. They've got lawyers, money, political connections. We need more. What do we need? We need to make Senator Hampton nervous enough to make mistakes. Victor came to Boston the next day. We sat in the hospital cafeteria that smelled like bad coffee and disinfectant, and he laid out his plan. I've been making calls, he said, talking to old contacts, journalists I trust, giving them background information about Senator Hampton's first wife's death, about Patricia Hammond, about some questionable financial dealings I found in his campaign records. What kind of financial dealings? The kind that involve offshore accounts and donations that go way over legal limits. Nothing solid yet, but enough to make people curious, enough to start asking questions. When? Tomorrow. The Boston Globe is running a story. Questions surround Senator Hampton's past. Not accusations, just questions. But it'll get attention. He'll know it came from us. Good. I want him scared. Scared people make mistakes. Here's what I learned about my brother during all this. Victor didn't just investigate cases, he built them like a mechanic builds an engine. Every piece had to fit perfectly. Every connection had to work. He was methodical, patient, thorough. Everything I wasn't, but everything we needed. The story ran the next morning. I watched the news coverage from Amanda's room. She was awake now, but broken. She held my hand as we watched Senator Hampton give a press conference, his face serious, his voice measured. "These allegations are completely baseless," he said. "My first wife's death was a tragic accident, investigated thoroughly by local authorities. I'm saddened that someone would try to use my family's pain for political purposes." He was good at it, I'll give him that. Calm, sympathetic, believable. For a minute, I wondered if we had any chance at all against this guy. Then Victor called. "Turn on Channel 7. Now." I found the channel. A press conference was starting. A woman I didn't recognize stood at a podium, her hands shaking a little. "My name is Patricia Hammond," she said. 15 years ago, I worked as campaign manager for then State Senator George Hampton. During that time, he sexually assaulted me. When I reported it to police, my complaint disappeared. I was paid money to stay quiet and sign a non-disclosure agreement. The room went dead quiet. Everyone was watching. Today, with the help of legal counsel, I am breaking that agreement. Senator Hampton is a dangerous man who has used his power and wealth to silence his victims for decades. I am here to say no more. My phone buzzed. Victor again. That's not all. Found 3 more women. They're all coming forward. And I found something else, Carl. Financial records showing Tyler had been researching ways to break prenuptial agreements 3 weeks before Amanda told him about the pregnancy. He knew she was trying to get pregnant. He was already planning how to get rid of her. Can you prove that? His search history, his lawyer's bills, emails, all of it. And here's the best part. Found out who else was on that yacht. One of the guests was a retired Coast Guard captain named Nathan Walsh. Talked to him this morning. He saw the whole thing. He's willing to testify that he watched Tyler and Senator Hampton deliberately push Amanda. My hands started shaking. Why didn't he say something before? He tried. The Hampton lawyers got to him first, told him he was mistaken, that he'd been drinking. But now, with everything else coming out, he's ready to tell the truth. Let me tell you what happened next, because it was like watching dominoes fall. Over the next week, everything unraveled for the Hamptons. The FBI opened an investigation into Senator Hampton's campaign finances. Massachusetts State Police reopened the investigation into his first wife's death. Tyler got arrested and charged with attempted murder, assault, and reckless endangerment. Senator Hampton held one more press conference. This time his hands shook, his voice cracked. He denied everything, called it a conspiracy, blamed political enemies. Nobody bought it. I sat with Amanda and watched it all happen on TV. She was getting stronger every day, physically anyway. Emotionally, she was wrecked. She'd lost her baby, her marriage, her trust in people. She cried a lot, didn't talk much. "I should have listened to you," she said one evening. "You never trusted them. You wanted to believe in love. Nothing wrong with that. It almost got me killed. But it didn't. You're alive, you're strong, and they're going to pay for what they did." Now here's something I want to tell you about the trial, because it took 8 months and I was there every single day. I sat in that courtroom watching Tyler squirm while witness after witness testified against him. Captain Walsh, the retired Coast Guard guy, other guests from the yacht who'd heard Tyler making threats earlier that evening, financial experts who explained the trust fund motive, medical people who explained how Amanda could have died from hypothermia and drowning. Tyler's lawyers tried everything, said Amanda jumped, that it was a suicide attempt, said she climbed on the railing herself and fell accidentally. They painted her as unstable, manipulative, a gold digger who trapped their client with a fake pregnancy. Amanda sat through all of it with quiet strength. When she finally took the stand and told her story, you could hear a pin drop in that courtroom. The jury took 4 hours to decide. Guilty on all counts. Senator Hampton's trial came next. Victor had gathered enough evidence to charge him with first-degree murder in his first wife's death, conspiracy to commit murder in Amanda's case, and multiple counts of obstruction of justice. That trial took longer, 14 months, but the result was the same. Guilty. I was there when they read the verdict. Watched George Hampton's face as the words sank in. Guy probably never lost anything in his life before, never faced real consequences, Never been told no by anyone who mattered. He looked across that courtroom and found me sitting there. Our eyes met. I didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just looked at him, and I hoped he understood. This is what happens when you mess with someone's family. 2 years have gone by since that night on the yacht. Amanda's doing better. Not perfect, but better. She sold her wedding ring, gave the money to a shelter for abused women, went back to school, got her master's degree in interior design. She's creating beautiful spaces now, places where families can feel safe. She doesn't date much. Says she's not ready. Maybe never will be. I don't push her. She's 28 years old and she's been through enough. She'll figure it out when she's ready. Victor and I talk all the time now. Funny how almost losing someone puts stupid family fights in perspective. He wrote a book about the case, The Senator's Secrets, How Power Corrupts. Asked if I wanted to help write it. I said no thanks. I lived it once. That's enough. Tyler Hampton is doing 30 years in federal prison. Senator George Hampton got life without parole for murdering his first wife. All their appeals failed. Sometimes Amanda asks me if what we did was revenge or justice. I tell her it's both, and that's okay with me. Here's what I learned from all this. Quiet guys aren't weak guys. For years, I kept my head down, didn't make waves, stayed out of trouble. People like the Hamptons count on that. They count on regular folks looking the other way, staying silent, being scared. But they forgot something important. Quiet doesn't mean powerless, just means patient. And patience, combined with determination and truth, is about the most powerful thing in the world. Amanda and I have dinner every Sunday now. We don't talk about Tyler or his father. We don't talk about that night on the yacht. We talk about her work, about the children's hospital playroom she's designing, about the future. Last Sunday, she told me she's thinking about going on a coffee date with a guy from work, an architect who seems decent. "What do you think?" she asked. I looked at my daughter, this tough, resilient woman who survived what should have killed her, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. "Trust your gut," I said, "and know that I'm always here, watching out for you." She smiled. "I know, Dad. I know." Truth is, I'll never stop watching out for her. That's what fathers do. We build things, families, homes, lives. And when someone tries to tear down what we've built, we don't just get mad. We get even. The Hamptons thought they could throw my daughter away and walk away clean, thought their money and connections made them untouchable. They were wrong. Sometimes the people you underestimate turn out to be the most dangerous. This quiet aircraft mechanic learned something in 30 years of fixing things. When you understand how something works, you also understand how to break it, how to find the weak spots, how to make the whole thing come crashing down. I built my life on solid ground. The Hamptons built theirs on lies, violence, and thinking they were better than everyone else. In the end, only one of us was left standing. That's how a regular guy took down 2 powerful men. Did it with patience, with help from my brother, and with the one weapon they never saw coming, the truth. Never mistake a quiet man's patience for weakness. We're just waiting for the right moment to show you what real strength looks like. They say money and power can buy anything, but they forgot the one thing that can't be bought: a father's love and the lengths he'll go to protect his family.